Welcome to Avant-Garde Entrepreneur. I am so glad you're here today with me, my friend. Around here, we are all about helping global changemakers like you build a sustainable social enterprise so that you can impact thousands, be profitable, and have something left of yourself at the end of the day. Today, we are talking about building resilience and mental endurance in business and life. We just wrapped up a powerful 4-episode series on upleveling your impact business with all the hottest topics that you ask about. Episode 3 with Sydney Sam is all about smart marketing for social entrepreneurs with strategies that actually work. In episode 64, Leslie Hasler shared 3 ways for you to pay yourself and why you should build your business as if you're going to sell it, even if you never do. Episode 65 with Scott Nichols is about how to craft the pitch deck investors want to see, as well as myths around raising capital. And episode 66 is about sales and entrepreneurship with AJ Vassar. Each of these guests talked about trends and fundamentals in their respective fields and practical tips and strategies on how you can implement them in your social enterprise. So now we all have our task list of the next phase of upleveling our impact business. 2 reminders. Number 1, pick one from each episode, one thing from each episode, and start with that. Not all the tips and strategies are for you right now. Number 2, give yourself the rest of the year to put them in place. They don't all need to be done right now, and they don't need to go on your list today. So even if you think you work best on a deadline, spread them out. Now, I know you. I know you think that you need to do all of them or it's not done right. This, my friend, is a recipe for burnout. Remember, each guest also shared candidly about some of the challenges of navigating life and business and touched on balancing their mental health and personal passions with running a profitable business. And this is what we're pivoting toward for the rest of the episodes this season. We all have gargantuan, Asana, Trello, or other project management tools. A key to effectively managing our projects is managing ourselves and our own mental well-being. As social entrepreneurs, we have this dual primary purpose to impact people and to make a profit so that we can impact more people or impact those we already serve more deeply. And you can have this beautiful vision of the impact you want to have on the special people in your community that you serve, but it won't come to fruition or it won't last if it's not sustainable for you as a person. Personal sustainability is twofold: being realistic and being resilient. One part of personal sustainability in business is all about being realistic, setting goals and intentions that are aligned with how you want to feel while making space for magic. The second part of personal sustainability is about bouncing back from real life and business. All the things that pop up that aren't on our list of goals, intentions, or visions or Google Calendar. These are the deals that go bad, the family emergencies, cyclones that rip our buildings apart, and the messy middle, those times when business just isn't as fun as it used to be. This, my friend, is what resilience is all about. And the theme of resilience has come up a lot for me lately. When I met today's guest, I knew he was the perfect person to segue this season of this show from the technical skills we need to the emotional, mental, and spiritual conditioning that are essential for not just staying in business, but for thriving in business and life. Today's guest is Mohamed or Mo Ahmed. He is a serial entrepreneur, product visionary, and author of the new book, Inside Out Entrepreneurship. With over 20 years experience in AI and cloud computing, Mo has built and sold several companies. He now dedicates his expertise to empowering diverse founders through his entrepreneurial conditioning framework, helping them raise millions and build resilience on their journeys. Mo has literally checked all of the technical boxes in business. He's done all the things: the marketing, the sales, the pitching to investors, the selling of multiple businesses, and he's here to talk about a necessity for staying in business so you can check all the boxes, and that is building resilience and mental endurance. Get ready for insights on thriving in your social enterprise with one of the startup world's most transformative mentors. Mo, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Trisha. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, Mo, tell us a little bit about yourself. I talked about some of your kind of the high level of your career, but can you tell us a little bit more personal details, maybe about where you grew up and what your early career was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as an engineer. I started with the technology. I fall in love into computer science early on. My dad actually brought me a computer when I was only 5 years old, and I really fall in love into how well a structure to write code and build an application. And I built my passion over time, to be a software engineer. I did so. I got my bachelor degree in computer science. I'm originally from Egypt. I grew in Cairo, one of the biggest cities in the continent, and I decided just to move on with my higher studies. And I came here to the United States around 20 years ago to do my PhD. I did my PhD at UConn, again studying computer science, and from that point. I continued to actually my journey with engineering. But there's a very, I would say, influential story or situation that I came across during my PhD that made me actually think about entrepreneurship. So the story quickly is one day I was taking one of the advanced computer science courses, and we were taking it in our building of computer science. They were doing some renovations or some fixes, so they moved us to the School of Business. As I was entering that room, I found a very small piece of paper talking about something called the Innovation Accelerator. And that's it's a joint program between the state and the university to bring in some graduate students and with entrepreneurs so that those graduate students would help them in their go-to-market and how they build their business. It's a summer internship. And I thought it's only for the business students. But anyways, I needed some money. That was my first year. And I said, okay, maybe if I land that internship, I'll get some money to buy my first car. I talked to the professor. He told me, yes, you're welcome to apply. I told him, but I'm a computer science student. He said, yes, we need you. Just come and apply. It was a tremendous program. And I saw an entrepreneur working live end to end on their idea, the challenges that they're facing, and we helped them. And towards the end of the program, I was telling the professor who was sponsoring the program. I told him his name was Luke. Look! If I don't work next year at Microsoft or Google for an internship, I will definitely come and work for you again and do the internship again. And he basically looked at me and he said, "Why go and work at Microsoft and Google? Why don't you just go and build your own company?" And that struck a chord. And I said, oh, yeah, why not? Okay. And since then, I started reading about entrepreneurship, and I got more and more fascinated by the idea of building something big just from a spark in your head. And I even took graduate courses during my PhD. I was auditing a couple of courses. It was definitely a great experience. That's how I started with entrepreneurship. Even though after my graduation, I did some engineering related work. But finally, in 2016, I decided to build my own company. And that was a transformative experience for me altogether. I was doing literally a career shift, and everything around me was changing. Most of my friends were engineers. Now I need to connect more with business people. My thinking was very, very structured around engineering and products. Business is completely different. And what is more importantly than all of that is the mental conditioning that I went through, which what we're going, of course, to discuss it in depth today. But that's the major transformation that happened to me throughout that journey. How do you think of the world around you as a series of problems that you need to solve so that you enhance others' lives and leave an impact, not necessarily all driven by products and engineering? It's a mix of engineering and innovation in the business and working with others in leadership. And you cannot do all of that as an entrepreneur unless you are personally balanced. You know who you are. You know when is it the time for you to take a break or take a step back, rethink, readjust your perspective, and then come back into, as I call it, the infinite game of business. It's interesting to see how the business actually can transform you. And to your intro of this episode, a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to do a lot and they want to get into how do I really check all the boxes of my business every single day, do all the marketing, all the sales, and then they neglect how do they actually make sure that they are ready to do all of that at the long term, have the marathon kind of mentality rather than sprinting every single day. And then you find yourself exhausted and not able to continue at, very quickly.
I find it interesting that you came in from the engineering perspective and that's what everything in your mind was built around was order and process. And then to shift the entrepreneurial mindset, I can imagine that, first of all, it had to be a huge challenge because it's a totally different world. But I can see how your structure, perhaps the personal discipline that tends to be built into the mindset of an engineer, helped you stay a bit more balanced than a lot of entrepreneurs who just have this idea and start.
Well, it was definitely, sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's the other way around.
Yeah, that's true.
Because at the end of the day, when you have the engineering mindset, you want everything almost to be perfect because you have control over the process, especially when it comes to software. Mm-hmm. You have control over the code, where it runs, how it runs, and so on. And then when you try to map this to the business, sometimes it's not possible to do that. And actually, maybe I'll share a story with everyone here. When I was working on my business part-time, I wasn't able to finish everything. And then the day I moved full-time, I was happy. I was saying, okay, I'm going to do everything that I was not able to do before. First day, I created the to-do list, around 20 items. I did only 7 or 6 of them. I said, okay, next day I'm going to come and finish everything. And then the list keeps going and going and going, bigger and bigger and bigger than the things that I'm not able to do. And I realized that the more work or the more you think about what you can do and the more work you add to yourself, the harder it gets. It's not about working harder. It's about actually how do you prioritize. And I realized that it's not about listing everything that I need to do. It's about listing things that must be done today and drawing a line and saying, what do you really want to ignore today? Even if it's just calling you, an email that is calling you or a message that is calling you to respond to, you need to draw a line and say, you know what? This is not the most important thing to do today. I think engineering definitely mentality helped me to think this way in a bit more structured. But again, engineering is going to give you the structure, but it's not going to give you the mindset and how to prioritize in business. Mm-hmm. And this is the transformation that a lot of entrepreneurs need to go through.
It's managing the gray area when it's the things that you can't control.
Exactly.
So you built and you sold your company, perhaps companies at the time. What inspired you to shift into more full-time mentoring and coaching, or are you still running businesses and mentoring and coaching?
Yeah, I'm doing them, of course, together.
Okay.
At a certain point, when I sold my last company, I took a step back and I said, okay, I can go and build another company. Or maybe I should my impact can be much bigger if I help entrepreneurs. Now, okay, helping entrepreneurs can be done in so many different ways. And there are a lot of people out there that can help them in sales and marketing. I still help entrepreneurs in sales and marketing and fundraising and all the aspects of the business. But I decided actually to focus on what really matters for the entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Now, if you think of the entrepreneur is like the hub that brings so many things together. They bring the idea with the resources, with people who are going to build it, and then they make them work in a way that would multiply each other. They raise $10 million and they make it $1 billion. They bring in 10 engineers and they make it an enterprise, a big enterprise. They have a product that's just idea in their mind and they make it a product that is deployed to 1,000 customers. So they are the catalyst to multiply all those together. Now, in order for them to do that, the technical details about building a business, how to do marketing and sales and all of that, there's abundance of this. but how do you as an entrepreneur grow with your business and grow your mindset is the piece that I don't think that is addressed enough in the literature of entrepreneurship and business. You know, a lot of people say, okay, resilience and robustness of your mindset, but what does it mean for you as an entrepreneur? And how can you really work with the challenges of every day and realize the impact of these on your psychology? When I actually guide entrepreneurs, let's say if I worked with someone on how do they fundraise, a fundamental part of my work with them is the psychology part.
Mm.
When I give them a guide, almost every 2-3 pages, or with every step that they do, I talk about the psychology of that step. When you go and talk to a VC, expect to be rejected. What does it mean? I understand that this is how it's going to impact your psychology. But by the way, a no right now does not mean no forever. And this is how you can tackle it. And this is how you can keep your mindset always in the right space. I wanted to increase the impact by working on the mindset, because the mindset is, once the entrepreneur master that piece, they become, invincible. They can handle a lot of things, and unexpected events are going to happen no matter what. This is the nature of business. Now, how do you deal with that and you grow, with it, is something really important. Maybe I'll close with this. One of the writers that I love their style and writing is Nassim Taleb. And Nassim Taleb, he writes about different topics in business and politics. And he wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. And the concept here is we have three kinds of, I would say, systems or objects. There are systems, when you add pressure to them, they get broken. Those are fragile systems. There are systems that are resilient. When you add some pressure on them, they can withstand the pressure. But at a certain point, when the pressure is too much, they will be broken. And the last kind of systems or people, when you add pressure on them, they become stronger. Now, how do you build that as an entrepreneur? The more pressure you get, you become stronger over time and you grow with your business. That's I believe is the key to success, not only in business, but in life, because life is not easy and will never be easy. You can make it rewarding. And that's the key. You're not going to make it easier. You're going to make it more rewarding, and you grow, exponentially and much faster than everyone else.
That's a brilliant distinction, that it's not going to be easy, but it is about making it rewarding. Yeah,
Exactly.
I like that. We have a global audience, many languages, with founders of all ages, and some as young as 16. And some also have decades of experience in helping others lift themselves out of poverty or to a better way of life. So resilience might mean something different depending on one's native language or life experience. So you gave a great analogy about the putting pressure on an object. But can you explain what resilience means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go back actually to my engineering origins. And actually, this is what I did in my book when I tried to explain what is resilience to everyone. So in engineering, when they say that this is a resilient structure, it means that when you add pressure on that structure, let's say you're building a bridge and it gets exposed to the elements and pressure by the cars running on it and so on. A resilient bridge means that with that pressure, it will maintain its form. It does not get deformed into something that would make it broken or unusable. So that's the meaning of resilience in engineering. Now, let's map this to our mindset into the entrepreneurship. What does it mean for an entrepreneur? First of all, an entrepreneur is a very special person, because this is a person who would have a mindset that is not, we do not have abundance of it in this world. He's challenging everything. He or she would challenge everything around them. They are they're positive about their abilities. They also have the abundance mindset. There are a set of mindset that they have as part of their character. Those mindsets, it could be something that they're born with, or maybe something that they're acquired. I believe that anyone in this world is capable to be an entrepreneur. It's a decision that they make, but some people are born with that. if you think of that mindset as the mental form of any entrepreneur, and then anything happening to us, unexpected events, you get an invoice that is not expected, or you get, or you get some sort of an event that is not favorable for you or your business. Does that event shift your mindset from, let's say, a positive mindset to becoming a negative person? Or no, you're resilient enough so that when that event happens, you're still maintaining, you're keeping yourself as a positive person. You still believe in your abilities as an entrepreneur. Now, we're not talking about one event. We're talking about so many events that you're going to come across throughout your journey. How do you make sure that those events do not deform your mindset? The other word for it is having a permanent scars. Or does it leave permanent scars or not? If it leaves a permanent scar, then your resiliency need to be improved. So that's the definition of resiliency in entrepreneurship, or at least my own definition is: how do you maintain a balanced mindset regardless of the elements around you impacting you? Now, there is another word, if you allow me to extend that a bit, there's robustness. Right. And this is also another word that is being used frequently. Again, I'll define robustness from engineering and I'll map it to the mindset. Robustness in engineering means that if you have an object and you apply tremendous pressure on it and it gets actually deformed one way or another because of that pressure, once you release that pressure, does it go back to the original form or not? That's the definition of robustness in engineering. Now, let's map it to mindset. Probably, everyone listening to us right now guessed it. If an event takes place and it just changed how I look at things, it made me, not as balanced as I used to be before. If we take out that event, right? Let's say you're going through a series of unfortunate events in your startup and you had to shut down your company. And then everything just went away. And now you're cooling down after, the whole experience is done. Does that again bring you back to the right mindset or not? Or actually you're deformed, your mindset now deformed, that your point of view is negative forever or not? That's again a piece that is important. And also it happens in the day-to-day life. I have an event at the beginning of the day. It made me, feel bad. How do I now, by the end of the day, how do I go back to the original mindset and just keep moving with my business? These two are very important in my point of view. These are the crux of the problem in my point of view when it comes to how do you build a stronger entrepreneur. And it doesn't matter how early or you are in your journey, how big or small your business is key to your success.
They say that you often coach or teach to the person that you used to be, or a former version of yourself. And it's common that when entrepreneurs get to me, they're already overwhelmed and on the edge of burnout, probably because I have been there myself. So how can entrepreneurs begin if they don't necessarily have a strong baseline for resilience or robustness? How can they start building resilience if they already feel burned out or overwhelmed?
This is also another important. Many entrepreneurs think that they can fix everything themselves, and I understand that. All entrepreneurs, they're challengers, and they believe that they have super abilities, and they are special, and they can do a lot more than the average. But when it comes to your mind, you need someone else to help you. I'm talking in depth actually about this in my book, Building a Support Network. And in your support network, you need actually 3 roles in your life. The first one, you need a mentor. And a mentor is someone who would challenge your mindset. Every time your mindset drifts into something negative or into an area that is not healthy for you and your business, they bring you back by challenging you why you're feeling this way. And they keep actually challenging you until you build that internal voice inside you that would bring you automatically back into the right area or the green area. The second role is an advisor. And the advisor is different from a mentor. A lot of entrepreneurs confuse that. Advisor is someone who would show you around the corner when you do business, someone who is ahead of you. So let's say I'm still fundraising for my startup, and now I'm about to talk to certain kind of VCs. The advisor would tell you, look, those are the things that they're going to be looking for. This is how you should communicate. This is how you should be asking for money, and so on. So they're showing you around the corner so that you're more confident about your next step. And then the last role that you need, and this is very important, and I know that a lot of people, would have it in their life, is a friend and family. But this is important. When we talk about friend and family, it's not just, it's an abstract concept that a lot of people actually forget about why is it important and how to best use it. Now, the friends and family are the ones who are going to help you whenever you're really low when it comes to how you're connecting the business to your personal life. But how can they do that without them knowing what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? I give you an example. When I was a first-time entrepreneur and I was talking to my wife, she would automatically get into the same mode that I have, and she would have the same expectations. When I raised my first VC fund, I thought that we made it. We're going to be, millionaires. We're going to be rich, but it doesn't mean anything in business. She didn't know that. I didn't know that. So we were both wrong. Now, if I have a friend who was an entrepreneur, went through this, he would bring me back, to reality. And he'd tell me, look, it means 1, 2, 3, and it doesn't mean such and such. You need to be realistic about your expectations. Also go and talk to your wife about that. I always encourage entrepreneurs to educate their families about the entrepreneurial mindset and journey. The families of the entrepreneurs are also as special as the entrepreneurs themselves. So they need to make sure that their family members who are supporting them throughout the journey are aware of the entrepreneurial journey, aware of the different stages. What does it mean to have your first 10 customers? What does it mean to have your, venture fund or your first funding? With all of that knowledge, your friends and family will become true supporters, to you throughout the journey. But if you just have them around without them knowing what does it mean and when to support you and when to observe if you're about to slip into, a negative mindset, they're not going to be as helpful.
I can see tremendous value in that because most entrepreneurs are not like their friends or family. They're wired differently, as you very well know. And it almost seems like that's something that's important, especially for young entrepreneurs, to begin having conversations with their family about it, because it's not easy, especially in a lot of cultures. The expectation is that someone becomes an engineer or a doctor or a scientist or an attorney, something that's tangible that they can tell their friends about. They don't understand this entrepreneurial thing. So whenever and I'm thinking about whenever I've been burned out, that's not the time for me to have a heart-to-heart conversation with someone. So it sounds like maybe get through the fog that you're in, and then when things settle down, start gradually bringing family members in and educating them. Where a few specific ones that might understand a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say there's no one way to do it. It depends on the person. Mm-hmm. I know some entrepreneurs who would follow the same approach that you mentioned. And there's some entrepreneurs, they just, talk through their frustrations, and sometimes talking through them would make them relieved.
Yes.
And even though they're still early on tackling that problem, mm-hmm. Some entrepreneurs, especially the extroverts of them, they think as they speak. So they want to speak with someone so that they solve the problem. Even if that person is just silent most of the time, but just feeling that they're getting out whatever inside, make them think and make them figure out the solution. I remember in one session with an entrepreneur, he was also having some issues with fundraising, and I knew about his tendency. He's an extrovert, and I kept left him talking and talking and talking. And then actually, as he is talking through his problems, he figured out the solution. And he said, I'm going to go and apply it. And he said, thank you very much. I did nothing other than, yeah, other than just listening to you. And some other entrepreneurs, I could see when I look in their eyes, I can see that they have problems and they don't want to basically talk about them. And what I do personally is I tell them, okay, I see that there is something here not working. Let me share a story with you. And just letting them know that they're not alone, number one. And there are different ways to solve the problem. Just trying to crack through the problem by giving them a possible solution through a story. The most important thing with for entrepreneurs is just them feeling that they're not the only ones that they're facing those problems. They're not the only ones who cause those problems for themselves, because they feel that that's one of the dilemmas that entrepreneurs have in their mind. They believe in themselves, but because of the problems that they face, they think that they are the ones who brought those problems.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes so it's a very lonely business, I would say. But when you bring in the stories from others, look, there's this other entrepreneur, he or she did such and such and such, and this is how they solved it. The first thing that they think of, okay, I'm not as bad as I thought. I'm not a stupid person. I thought that I'm just bringing all of that to myself. It's just a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now there is a way to solve it. I see others solved it in a really unconventional way, which I know that I can do. Let me think through it. And then they do not tell me what they want to do, but they go back, think about it, and they come the next session and they say, okay, I think I solved it because of that story.
That's amazing. That's great advice. One of the things I talk a lot about in workshops, and I talked about it kind of in the intro a little bit, is that sustainable social enterprise starts with the entrepreneur. And the business model that they create can have massive impact, but it's not going to last if it's not personally sustainable for them. And you talk about mentioning or balancing ambition with personal well-being. I've heard you about that in the book. What are some practical tips entrepreneurs can take for avoiding sacrificing one for the other?
The first thing that I would like everyone to have in their mind, entrepreneurship or becoming an entrepreneur is like climbing a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to any mountaineer, no matter how experienced they are, they would tell you, I have to do certain conditioning before I start climbing. And that conditioning is not physical only. That conditioning is physical, mental, emotional. And they even go back and they check with their family and make sure that everything is okay and everything is lined up for them to start that journey. It's the same thing for entrepreneurs. The number one advice that I would give anyone is make sure that your personal life is lined up for your journey. You will never have a perfect time to start a company. I'm not saying that you wait for that perfect time. But what I'm saying is think of all the elements in your life or all the dimensions of your life that will either impact your entrepreneurial journey or your entrepreneurial journey is going to impact it. I give actually maybe 1 to 3 examples. So I wanted to build my company since that inspiring story that I had with the professor at the business school at UConn. And my wife was, kept telling me, well, we have kids, if you do that, what if it doesn't work? And so on. I agree with her, but I told her, okay, how about we do the following? How about I save what is equivalent to how long that journey would take me? Your number one goal is you want to make sure that our lifestyle is not impacted. The kids can still do whatever they can do. We're still in our house. Everything is okay. And I would do the following. I'll save 2 years, 2 to 3 years worth of spending for the house. And if I have that, will you allow me to go ahead and start my company? She said, yes, you have my word. And that's actually what I did. So that's what I call it, the financial well-being. You have to be financially ready. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm talking about, of course, that when you have control, I know that sometimes that does not happen. But, do you have enough time to prepare for your financial well-being or be financially ready for that? I know that this sometimes does not happen. You get maybe laid off and you have to figure out something. that would tell you that the first, even if you get laid off and you have to build a company, or something happened, you have to build a company, think of your financial well-being as one dimension. This is very, very, very important. Now, the other thing, and I touched on, is your family. You need to educate them and tell them, what does it mean to become an entrepreneur? How much time you're going to spend with them, how much time you're going to spend on the road, traveling and talking to customers and investors and so on. This is very important. And then you need to think of your relationship with your family as a bank account or a saving account. Every time you sit with them and have a quality time, you deposit $1. And every time you're away from them, you're withdrawing $1. Your main goal is to make that account balance always positive. Don't make it negative. Because if you make it negative, then you're in a red zone. And you want to make sure that you bring it back very quickly into the green. So that's very important. Now, there are so many other things. There are many dimensions. Actually, there are 6 dimensions that the entrepreneurs need to be ready for each one of them. There's, of course, the spiritual one. You mentioned this at the beginning. And I don't mean by that, the specifics of what you believe in, but there's some universal laws that you're going to realize throughout the journey. And maybe you should realize them early on, like the ability to control events around you. It doesn't matter what you believe in, but you'll realize over time that you have very, very little control over a lot of things that are taking place around you. Even your kids, you cannot have control over them. The only thing that you have control on, and that's what you need to work on over time, is your ability to respond, your point of view, your mindset. If you leave that and try to control everything else, it's a losing proposition, in my point of view. So those are things that I would encourage any entrepreneur to work on. And again, you need someone, the number one person that you need to have is that mentor, who would basically be your, some sort of your oracle that would tell you, look, if you do this, this is going to happen to you. And that's a person who is ahead of you, usually in life or in their life experiences in general. That person doesn't have to be, super old, but someone who went through, who's ahead of you, a few steps ahead of you, and they learned from that. You really look up to them, and you're ready to be vulnerable with them. Because if you're not ready to be vulnerable with them, you're not going to share everything, and you're not going to get the value.
Mm-hmm. How do you recommend finding mentors or building a support network or growing your support network when either you're starting out or let's say you're kind of pivoting to the next stage of your business?
First of all, it's not one mentor. You can have multiple mentors. You can have your mentor for business or entrepreneurship. You can have your mentor for, something else that you're doing in your life. Looking for a mentor that will make your journey the most effective and rewarding is where your business need to be. So I found my mentor as I was fundraising and I was talking to entrepreneurs, and it actually need to work both ways. So I met a person and I saw him as a mentor. And I meant by that, okay, there is that personal connection that took place. And then he also sees something, he saw something in me. He saw me as an earlier version of himself. So we connected and he said, okay, I need to make sure that I lead you in that journey. So I would recommend entrepreneurs to look for a mentor in their journey as they are progressing in their journey. We also have connecting entrepreneurs with mentors. If they go to our website, Boundless Founder, the CEO, and become a community member, they can connect with people who can become their mentors, or they can become their friends that can support them throughout that entrepreneurial journey.
That's fantastic. That's a great resource. We can link to that in the show notes. You talked about it a little earlier, I think. I wanted to ask if you could give us sort of a high-level glimpse of your entrepreneurial conditioning framework. I'm thinking that you talked about 3 of those things: the financial, family, and mindset.
There's also the spiritual one. There's the personal branding also is very important. And there's the body-mind connection. Let's talk about let's start with the mind-body connection. This is very important. your mind and body, there are different theories around the mind and body. Some are saying your mind and your body are disconnect. So you can still have, you can maybe become, have some sort of an illness, but your mind can be positive. This is one theory, the dualism, as they call it. And there's also the other theory around, no, they're interconnected. Your mind is going to impact your body, and your body is going to impact your mind or your mindset. I'm a personal believer of that theory. I think they're very interconnected, and they send messages to each other all the day. If your mindset is really not in where you want it to be, one way to adjust it is to do something with your body. Just go and play sports, go and do some breathing exercises. That will give some feedback to your mind and hopefully adjust you. And by the way, it's the other way around. And we see it a lot of time. If you're depressed for a long time, or if you're having problems for a long time and working really long hours, your body actually can almost get into a shutdown mode because of that. So they impact each other. So how understanding that connection and working on that connection so that you make sure that they feed into each other in a positive way is key. The other dimension is the personal branding for the entrepreneur. And that's very important. When you think of your startup, most entrepreneurs confuse their startup's identity with themselves. Over time, because they've been working on their company for a very long time, they just become one thing. Or they think in their head that it's just one thing. So if their company is having trouble, they believe also that their life is just miserable. And of course, vice versa. You want to disconnect these from each other. You want to make sure that, yes, there's a company. It's a major project that you're building right now in your life. But it's not everything in your life. It is not you. You're much bigger than that. And this is also one thing that I work on with entrepreneurs is, how do you position this startup, even though you're so into it right now, as just one project? No matter how cool the technology that you're building or the product that you're doing, it doesn't even matter how many it's impacting right now. At a certain point, the technology is going to become something obsolete and old. People that you're helping right now, they're going to move on into something else. And over time, what matters is you. Because you built this company, whether it failed or not, or successful or not, you're going to move on. Even if it's success, at the end of the day, you have to move on in your life. So building your own personal brand away from the company, or separating your company from your own life, and making sure that everyone sees you as, look, an entrepreneur who built a company, but you have so many other things in life, is very important. And actually, that's one of the motivations for me, writing the book. I said, okay, I want to extend my impact, beyond the company. How about I take those learnings and those stories and share it with entrepreneurs? Now I'm an entrepreneur, and at the same time, I'm an author, and I like to share ideas and thoughts with others, and make sure that they get the maximum benefit of it. Now, you do not need to follow the same path. There's so many other things that you can do as an entrepreneur. But having that right perspective, so that you're not so much engraved into your startup, and you feel that you're the ship captain that have to go down with the ship if it's sinking. That's not right. You're much bigger than that. You're much more important than that as a person, as an entrepreneur.
In my mind, I feel like this is talking about personal branding is a great way to reframe our personal identity. Because I think when we're talking about our identity, it could feel a little self-focused, but thinking about branding is more of a business concept. And so I think for entrepreneurs, that could be really helpful, looking at separating ourselves from our business in the concept of personal branding versus feeling like it's an identity thing, because our work is often our identity. But when we shift the mindset to, what is my personal brand, that has a different energy to it.
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
Going back to a little bit of the mind body connection, what are some of the daily practices that you have that have been most helpful for maintaining mental clarity when we have our list?
Yeah,
Maintaining our mental clarity under pressure.
there are different things that I do. Number one, when I start my day, I start with something that is not business related at all. Go and work out. I either interact with my family. I either do some breathing exercises or some meditation in general. This is very, very important to start your day because actually that sets the tone for the rest of the day. It tells you that you're not, again, just an entrepreneur.
Mm.
This is very important. A lot of people, and I used to do that, they start their day by checking their email, their work email, and they start their day with some sort of a business related activity. No, don't do that. Start with something that will set the tone that you're not just a startup, you're something else. I also do some checkpoints throughout the day. And during, let's say, lunchtime, I also do something that is not related to work. If I'm meeting a friend, sometimes I write as one of my to-do lists for the week, I'm going to connect with 2 or 3 old friends this week, either by phone call or having a lunch or dinner with one of them. So also having, cutting your day with some sort of this activity is important. And then you do also the same thing when you close your day. You need to close your day with something that is just different and away from your business. Your business, again, are just make sure that it's an island in the middle of a lot of other things that you do, not the other way around, because a lot of people think of it the other way around. I do business, and then there are a few islands of few things that I do occasionally and I don't plan for.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get lost.
And that's great advice to do things throughout the day in the evening. I talk a lot about having quiet time and starting to develop the discipline of that in the morning, or for some people, it's the nighttime or the afternoon. But I can see so much value in doing all three and resetting. I can see how that would be something that would really help people shift so that they don't feel like their whole world revolves around their business, but instead that their business revolves around their world and what's really important to them.
And actually, also another thing that I would tell the entrepreneurs is when you start your year, plan your vacation first.
Oh, I love that.
Right. So say those are my vacation times.
Mhm.
And usually you need to take a break each quarter or every 3 months. Take just 4 days, 5 days. It doesn't have to be something, big, even if it's something local. And then plan your business around it. If someone is calling you for a meeting, make sure that it doesn't intersect with that time.
Mhm.
You need that time. And again, a lot of people think of sleep as a waste of time. No, it's a productivity tool. Your vacation is also another productivity tool for you.
Mhm.
It's going to help you to be more productive after that.
That's going to be a quote. Your vacation is a productivity tool. What is the role for you when we talk about entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs? All of them are guided by a higher power because it's too darn hard to do it without it. And because their heart is really for their beneficiaries and they make money. The whole reason for them to make money is so that they can help people or help more people more substantially. In your life, what is the role of faith for you and your connection with your higher power in accomplishing your mission?
That's a very good point. And that's actually part also of the spiritual, preparation. And that's part again of knowing that you don't have that much control. Connecting to a higher power means that there's someone who is actually taking care of everything.
Mhm.
You do not need to act like God.
Mhm.
Right? And that's also a lot, a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that trap.
Mhm.
They think, okay, I can do a lot of things.
Mhm.
And they are, again, because of their belief in themselves, they try to act like a God.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's wrong. That's wrong. That's going to basically drive you crazy at the end.
Mhm.
It's just an illusion. Control is just an illusion. So connecting to that higher, higher power, higher authority, whatever you call it at the end of the day, is canonical. It's important. Because again, if you believe that you have control over everything and then you realize that you're not, that's, going to drive you crazy and can drive you into some really dark thoughts. You don't want to be there. That's it. I think the core or the gist of it.
Thank you for sharing that. So I've got to know this. You have your family, you have lots of colleagues, you're mentoring people, you're being mentored. What is your why, Mo? What keeps you going on the tough days?
It's a very good question. I follow actually the same framework that I'm, teaching everyone because I believe in it. And the book is full of stories from my own experience. I still make sure that I continuously condition myself. I always check my mindset. I still have mentors that I, share with them and become vulnerable in front of them, share, what should I do? Now, as I get older and get wiser, I know that I don't have control over everything around me. So I keep reminding myself of that. I keep reviewing my why I'm doing what I'm doing every day. And why I'm trying to, move that and make that next move. Connecting with all of these is very important. And of course, I take care of educating my family. Even sometimes my wife would tell me, "This is too much. You don't want to educate me more about that." And no. You need to know so that we have both realistic, details about our expectations about the business. I keep doing that, working out and disconnecting, from work every day, gain the identity and the brand beyond the business is important. And it's not just go to social media and talk about something different. You truly and genuinely need to be interested in something else and do something different. That will basically build your independent identity and character away from your business. I do all of that most of the time. So I still apply my framework.
I like it when people eat their own cooking. That's fantastic. So we are going to link to the book in the show notes. It is a phenomenal book. So even if sometimes there are issues in other countries with shipping, Mo does have it available as a Kindle version so that you can read it electronically. It's fantastic. So we're going to link to Mo's website for the book. That way this is not an Amazon link. You're more likely to be able to find all the versions. Before I ask my last question, Mo, besides linking to your book, how do people connect with you?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, boundlessfounder.co, or they can find me on LinkedIn, where we'll definitely send this as part of the show notes. And I have a very special offer for your audience. So we have a free membership for anyone to come over and check a lot of free material on our website and downloadable resources to help them with the framework that I mentioned in the book. But also we have a paid membership where they can get extra support. So we're gonna give all your listeners a 30% discount, and we're gonna share with you in the show notes also how they can apply that discount to their shopping cart.
Oh, Mo, that is so generous. Thank you so much. I have a few people in mind already that I know are really going to appreciate that. So thank you.
I look forward to seeing them at the other side.
Yeah. So last question, what is on the horizon for you? What are you most excited about now?
Now I'm working on my second book, actually.
Oh, my goodness.
That's actually, this is one of the projects I'm really excited about. Hopefully in a few months from now is going to come out. But the first one was all about the mental resiliency and robustness and stories from my own journey. I've been collecting stories from others' journeys. And what I learned throughout those discussions and talks and sometimes even tough discussions with some entrepreneurs, that there's some universal rules that if you follow them, and strategies, if you follow them, you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur no matter what. The way that I call it, how do you become a super entrepreneur? Right? And to become a super entrepreneur, you need to be aware of those universal laws and apply them every day, no matter what stage you are, whether you're just early stage or even just thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or a late stage startup. If you keep those in mind, those are always going to keep you in a balanced state and also keep your business healthy. I'm now moving a bit more towards how do you really connect the business with your growth as a person.
Well, we will be on the lookout for that. And once it does come out, we will go back and link that book in the show notes as well. So in case the podcast is designed to be evergreen so that people can watch it in 2 or 3 years and the episodes still be relevant. And this is certainly one of those episodes. So we will link to your new book when it comes out.
Absolutely.
Mo, you have been a wealth of information. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart. The guidance that you give it's so heartfelt and it's so practical and tangible. And I definitely have quite a few takeaways of little mindset shifts that even I can make, and certainly those that are going to be helpful for listeners. So we really appreciate your time and your wisdom today.
Well, thank you very much, Tricia, for having me. It was a pleasure to talk with you.